Okay, friends, we're back with our last chapter from Sideways Stories from Wayside School. Can you believe it? We are on chapter 30 titled Louie. So, based on that picture, what do you think this chapter is going to be about? Now, using our background knowledge, we've met Louie many, many times throughout the whole book. So we know a lot about Louie already. So using that knowledge we already know about him, what does he do? He's the yard teacher or the recess teacher. So let's see if you can make some inferences and draw some conclusions at home on what this last chapter is going to be about. Let's go ahead and finish the book. All right. Louie had a red face and a mustache of many colors. He was the yard teacher at Wayside School. It was his job to see that the children didn't have too much fun during lunch and recess. And if you haven't already guessed, he's the one who wrote the book. So we're going to put a pause on it real quick in case you didn't know that. The author is Louis Sanchez. So he wrote himself into the book. I just think that is so cool. So you didn't already know that. Now you do. All right, now let's keep reading. On June 10th, there was a blizzard. Louis was afraid that the children would have too much fun, so nobody was allowed outside. Class, said Mrs. Jules, after you finish your lunch today and come back up to the classroom, you are not allowed outside. The children all went to the lunchroom. Miss Mush had made tuna surprise. They looked at it, then hurried back up to the stairs. There was nothing to do. Now, class, said Mrs. Jules, I know that you are all bored, but I have a special surprise for you. I hope it's better than the tuna surprise, said Mauricia. Mrs. Jules continued. Louis is going to come up and entertain us. He will tell us a story. Now, I want you all to be on your best behavior. When Louis walked in, all the children booed. Are you going to tell us a story? Asked Bibi. Yes, said Louis. Well, it better be good, Bibi warned. It better be better than the tuna surprise, said Butterfingers. I thought the tuna surprise was good, said Louis. You'd eat dirt if they put ketchup on it, said Mac. Hey, everybody, be quiet, said Todd. Let him tell the story. Not too loud, Louis, said Sherry. I'm trying to get some sleep. Louis sat in the middle of the room and all the children gathered around. Louis began his story. This is a story about a school very much like this one. But before we get started, there is something you ought to know so that you don't get confused. In this school, every classroom is on the same story. Which one? The 18th? Asked Jenny. No, said Louis, they are all on the ground. The school is only one story high. Not much of a school, laughed Damien. Louis continued, Now you might think the children are all strange and silly. That is probably true. However, when I told them stories about you, they thought you were strange and silly. Us? The children answered. How are we strange? I'm normal, said Stephen. Aren't I? As normal as I am, Joe assured him. The children at the school must be crazy, said Leslie. Real Lewis, Marcia agreed. Tell us about them, Louis, Bibi demanded. For one thing, Louis said, none of these children has ever been turned into an apple. That's silly, said Dee Dee. Everybody's been turned into an apple. It's part of growing up. Louis continued, Dead rats don't walk into classrooms wearing raincoats. What do they wear, tuxedos? Asked Todd. And girls never try to sell their toes, Louis added. Well, no wonder, said Leslie, at today's prices. Louis continued, They don't trade names or read upside down. They can't turn mosquito bites into numbers. They don't count the hairs on their heads. The walls don't laugh. And 2 + 2 always equals 4. That's horrible, said Damien. That's not the worst of it, said Louis. They have never tasted Mauritia-flavored ice cream. A hush fell over the classroom. Mrs. Jules, I'm scared, said Allison. Is there really a school like that? Of course not, said Mrs. Jules. Louis was just telling a story. It was a good story, said Leslie. I thought it was stupid, said Kathy. I liked it, said Rondi. It was funny. Mrs. Jules said, Louis, it was a very entertaining story, but we don't really go in for fairy tales here. I'm trying to teach my class the truth. That's all right, said Louis. I have to go down to room 29 now and tell them a story. He started out the door. Class, said Mrs. Jules, let's all thank Louis for his wonderful story. Everybody booed. Okay, so, whoa, what a very cool ending to the whole journey we've been on in this story. So, how could you summarize this chapter? All right, think about how you could summarize that. What would you say? How would we end and wrap up this chapter? So one way to summarize it is that Louis was telling the students how if the things were reversed, that it would seem like a fairy tale to them. But when we're reading the story, it seems like a fairy tale to us, right? So that's very interesting to think about. So what do you think the students think about Louis' story? Did they think it was funny, or were they kind of shocked? They didn't like it, did they? All right, let's go on to our next question. What do you think about Wayside School? Tell your family members, tell a sibling, a friend, or to yourself, whatever it is. What do you think about this? Would you like to go to a school like Wayside School? Why or why not? All right, so how is Wayside School similar to our virtual classroom? How is it different? And lastly, what is your favorite chapter and why? Okay, friends, so we finally come to the end of our reading together. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you're ever in a library, pick this book up and read it at home. It'd be really cool to read it now that we've read it together. Okay, friends, it's been so much fun reading these to you.